Hello friends, and in this tutorial I am going to explain you about the counter instruction counter up, counter down, counter up down with the falling edge and rising edge. Okay, so let's start the programming, and here I will take one anchor contact, and I will define the address. Wait a minute, I'll define the name input underscore 0. Okay, now here I will take one rising edge, so please pay attention how I can define the rising edge. You can see here rising edge and falling edge detection is available. So if I press rising edge, this pulse will available here. Okay, so I will define the instant name R1, press enter, and data type is R3. By default it's selected. Okay, now here if I press input 0, it will turn on it will turn on this clock bit on the rising edge of this input 0. Okay, so at every input rising edge of the we can say input 0, this R trick will give one pulse to output side at the cube. Okay, it's very simple. And now I will connect here one counter, so you have to click here standard library and counter up, you have to select it here and click here like this way. So here I will define C0, counter 0 and counter up. Okay, now here in the reset I will define input 1. If I reset, if I give input to reset, then it will reset the output and current value. I will take input 1. Now it preset value I will set 10. Here I will define C up, C up, current V underscore C up, and here I will define the value word. Okay, so here we have defined the current value of the up timer, and input 1 we will reset, 10 is the preset value. Here at the output I will define one out bit out. Okay, and that is the boolean. Now it looks per program okay, and I will download the program. Okay, I have not turned on the power of PLC, so now power is on. So let's make login, download and run. Okay, now at the every rising pulse of the input 0, it will give one pulse at the counter up timer, and at when the timer reaches to 10 count, it will turn on this out bit. Okay, on. So you can see sorry input 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. So at the 10 count my output is on. If I press input 1, okay, then see my counter will reset and my output will be off. Now I will explain you what is the falling edge. Okay, so make logout and I will delete here. Now I will take this falling edge here. Okay, and I will write here F1, F1, F3. So what will happen in the rising edge when input 0 is on? it will give one pulse. But in the falling trick, falling edge, if input 0 is off, then it will give one pulse. Okay, so that we will understand and download the program. Source code no, and let's make input 0 on. So you can see my counter is not turning on because I have used the falling edge. So if I turn off the input 0, my counter will up. Okay, I have not run the PLC. Every time I forget it. So see, if input 0 is on, my counter is not turning up. But if I turn off the input 0, my counter will up. So at when the input 0 is off, my counter will increase. You can see here. So my counter is giving output at the preset value of 10. Okay, so this is the use of the falling edge. Now let's log out it and take falling edge, sorry, rising edge R1. Okay, now let's understand counter down. So I will delete this one and I will use counter down from the library, and I will use C1 counter 1. I will use current value, current V underscore CDN. Okay, that is the word file. Where is the word? Yes, word. Let's check. Okay, now load. What is the load? Load is the input. When we give signal high at the load, it will preset the value to the counter. Okay, whatever the value that we press here, it will press to the counter down. At every pulse input of the input 0, counter will count down from the preset value. Okay, so I will explain you here. Online login no, and run. So here you can see my counter is turned on. Okay, I think this value is from previous. I will say log out. I will give one. Okay, so let's load it. Let's run. Okay, now you can see my output is on. Now what I will do, I will press input 1. So if I press input 1, my counter is preset with value CDN 10. Okay, you can see here my counter is preset with CDN 10, current value CDN 10, because I have pressed input 1. If I press input 1 to 10, input 1, then whatever the value that we set at the PV is stored as a current value in counter down. So when I press input 0 at every rising edge, my counter will down, you can see. And when counter is at the 0, it will turn on the output. So that's why the reason when I have turned on this PLC, my output was on, because by default the current value was 0. Okay, and that's why the result output was on. So here again, if I press input 1, my counter will loaded with the preset value. You can see here. Okay, now again I will make input 0 on. My counter will count down, and you can see here output 1 is on. So if I press input 1 again, my counter will load the preset value. Okay, so max log out. This is all about the counter down. Now we will understand another instruction that is counter up down. Okay. Now for counter up, we will create 2 bit, okay, for up, and here I will create another bit, network after, and let's control C, control V. Here I will define R2, okay, and here I will say DN down bool, and here I will define input 1. Okay, now let's take counter up and down from library. Here I will define C3, that is already defined. Okay, for the counter down I will just write DN. Okay, for reset I will write input, uh, input input 2. Okay, input 2, and here I will define we can say here, let's take NO contact, and I will define up. Now let's define input 3, input underscore 3 for the load input, and let's say preset is 10. Okay, now this is the current value UD up down timer, and let's say this is a word. Okay, and let's this define as out, counter up out, counter down out. I will say U out, up out, and let's define here the TN out. Okay, so I think almost the all variable is declared. So I will say rebuild all, and there is a no error. So let's load it. No, let's run it. Okay, so here you can see we have up input when input 0 is on. So let's make up. So you can see my counter is up 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 and 10 because my preset value is 10. Okay, so at 10 my U out will on. Okay, now I will make counter down at with the use of input 1. You can see my counter is now down. So as soon as the counter is down, my DNOT, you can see down out is on. You can see it is true at the down out. Okay, so let's make a 5 count. Okay, my count is now 5, and here I will press input 2, and I will make force on so that my counter will be reset. Okay, so I am make true and I will write force. So you can see my counter is 0, it means that it is reset, and I will release the force value. Now if I press input 2, it will load the preset value. So let's make true here, and I will go online and I will check force value. So my current value is set at 10. Okay, and I will release the force value. So you can see this is the way you can use the reset and load. Now again I will make counter down. So you can see my counter is now down, and when the current value is reached to 0, my down output bit is on. Now again I make counter up. So you can see my counter up is reached when 10, my output is on. Okay, so this is the way you can use the counter up and counter down. So thanks for watching this tutorial. If you have any question, you can ask me in Q&A. Okay, thanks.